Shalom, brothers and sisters, on the Feast of Tabernacles.
Shalom.
All right. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Are y'all focused? Is everybody awake? Because you're going to need to be for this lesson. All right. I got a question for you. How important is the Sabbath day to the Israelites?
Very important.
Very important, right? Remember the answer to that question, okay? Let's get started. This lesson will be entitled Breakdown of the Times and Holy Days. All right, I'm going to say that one more time. Breakdown of the Times and Holy Days. All right? So we know that all the feast days of the Most High rest on Sabbath days. We all know that, right? This is it. In case you don't know that, we're still going to go into it anyways. So we know all of the Most High's feast days rest on Sabbath days, besides the Day of Atonement, because we know that the Day of Atonement is not a feast day. It's a holy convocation. And the reason why it doesn't rest on the Sabbath day is because we know in the law that we aren't permitted to fast on the Sabbath, right? There is no fasting on the Sabbath, right? So we know that all of our feast days rest on Sabbath, besides the Day of Atonement, which is not a feast day. It is a holy convocation. Okay? Now, as we run through this lesson, I'm gonna run through this lesson straight through. So if you have any questions, write them down and hold them to the end, and I'll answer them at the end. Okay? All right. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23, verse 2.
Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord,
Concerning the feast of the Lord, read.
which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
Even these are my feasts. Verse 3, read.
6 days shall work be done,
6 days shall work be done.
but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest.
Okay, so we're seeing something awkward here. Now, we're in Leviticus. We know that the Sabbath was established as a holy day in Genesis and in Exodus. It also goes over the stipulations of what you are to do and what not to do on the Sabbath. So why is it where it speaks of feast days in Leviticus chapter 23, is it reiterating what you are supposed to do and what you are not supposed to do on the Sabbath? This was already information that the Israelites knew. Con? This is something that we already know. If you're reading from Genesis all the way through Exodus, by the time you get to Leviticus 23, you already know that what the Sabbath day is and what you are supposed to do and what not to do on the Sabbath day. So why is Moses saying this again? Read.
Verse 3, 6 days shall work be done. On the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
Read.
Verse 4, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season.
Okay, so we see him jump from the feast to the Sabbath days back to the feast, right? We're going to see something that reoccurs throughout this chapter many times, the Sabbath, right? And we've all answered the question, how important is the Sabbath day to the Israelites? And everybody answered extremely important, right? Continue reading.
Verse 5, in the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
Okay, it says in the 14th day of the first month is the Lord's Passover, right? So read through verse 6.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
Okay, so we know that the Passover falls on a Sabbath, correct? And if we know that the Passover falls on the second, and it tells you to count 14 days from the 14th day, we know 14 days, there's 2 Sabbaths there, right? 7 and 7, right? So that's 2 Sabbaths. So in order to count 14 days to a Sabbath, you had to have begun on a Sabbath, right? You can't start on a Monday, count 14 days, and get to a Sabbath. So that means the first day of the year is a Sabbath. Are you following me? I need you to talk to me. If you ain't following me, I got to know, all right? Okay. So, we see here that, so in order for the Passover to fall on the 14th day Sabbath, the year had to have begun on a Sabbath, right? Read.
Verse 7, in the first day Ye shall have a holy convocation.
A holy convocation. Doesn't it say in verse 2 where it speaks of the Sabbath, where it gives you the exact definition of what a Sabbath is, and it tells you shall do no servile work therein, and it tells you it shall be a holy convocation unto you. Right? It's laying no difference between holy convocation and Sabbath. Right? Read.
Ye shall do no servile work therein.
This is a Sabbath. Read.
Verse 8. Ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. In the 7th day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Okay, so we're seeing no servile work therein multiple times, right? It's a motif. It's reoccurring. Right? Why? Drop down to verse 24.
Verse 24.
Come.
Verse 24. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath.
Whoa, it's saying the 1st day of the 7th month, we will have a Sabbath. Read.
A memorial blowing of trumpets, holy convocation.
So we're seeing that the memorial blowing of trumpets falls on a Sabbath. Right? Keep following me. This is important. It's important that you follow me here. Read.
Verse 25. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
Read.
Verse 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this month, there shall be a day of atonement.
Okay, so it's saying on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. Now we know that the 7th month begins on a Sabbath, right? And if we know that the 7th day begins on a Sabbath, if you count 10 days, that means you miss a Sabbath by 3 days. Right? If you're counting from a Sabbath and you count 7 days, you hit a Sabbath. But it says to count 10 days. So that means we're passing a Sabbath by 3 days. Right? Why? Because the Day of Atonement, we are not permitted to fast on the Sabbath. So the Day of Atonement would not fall on a Sabbath. Are you following? So, if you count 3 days from a Sabbath, you get what day? All right? Follow me. You have the Sabbath. You have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The Day of Atonement is falling on a Tuesday. Right? Now here's the issue. Here's the problem. So I already established that you count 10 days from a Sabbath and you pass the Sabbath by 3 days, right? So this means that the Day of Atonement will fall on a Tuesday. Now, we have another holiday celebrated in Judaism as Yom Kippur, right? And it celebrates the Sabbath. And trust me, I know this because the headmaster at my school is a Jew. And he had us take this whole day off, right? So they celebrate Yom Kippur from Tuesday sundown to Wednesday sundown. Here's the problem. Drop down to verse 32.
Verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest.
This is speaking of the Day of Atonement. Read.
And ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month.
Wow. Wait. In the 9th day. Read.
In the 9th day of the month at even.
At even. So here's what we're missing here. If the 10th day falls on a Tuesday, then that means if it's saying that we're supposed to afflict our souls on the 9th day at even, it's saying that we're supposed to celebrate it from Monday Eve sundown to Tuesday sundown. They're a day too late. Are you following me? They're a day too late. We're going to read that one more time. Go back to the beginning of verse 32.
It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even.
Okay.
Shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
Shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So here it's saying on the 9th day, not the 10th day, the 9th day sundown, because we know that in our old calendar, our days were sundown to sundown, right? We know the days are from sundown to sundown. So it's saying on the 9th day sundown to the 10th day sundown. So let's count from that Sabbath one more time, okay? Because remember, like I said, the first day of the month is a Sabbath, right? You count 7 days and you're at a Sabbath, but it says to count 10 days. So we're going to count to that 10th day, okay? We have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That means that this Tuesday is the 10th day, right? It says to count from the 9th day. So we're going to go back Monday sundown to Tuesday sundown. Not Tuesday sundown to Wednesday sundown. They're a day too late, right? But that's not the end of it. Keep reading. Verse 33.
Verse 33. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day.
Oh, wait. It says the 15th day. Read.
The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord.
It shall be a Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. Now, here's the problem. It tells you that the Day of Atonement falls on the 10th day of the month, right? And then it tells you to count 5 days from the Day of Atonement to the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, if you're counting correctly from the Monday sundown to the Tuesday sundown, you can count 5 days to the Sabbath, right? You can count 5 days to the Feast of Tabernacles. So let's do it. We're going to count from that Sabbath, okay? We're going to count from the Sabbath that we passed going to the Day of Atonement. So you have the Sabbath we have the Sabbath on the memorial blowing of trumpets, right? You count 7 days. You go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's 3 days. That means we're at the 10th day now, right? Now we have to count 5 more days. Okay? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Right? You get 5 days. You get 5 days to that Friday sundown to the Saturday sundown. Right? But here's the problem with Yom Kippur. You can't get 5 days from Wednesday, can you?
Nope.
Let's count it out. You got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You only get 4 days. They're a day too late. According to Scripture. Now, I haven't even gotten into anything else concerning the calendar yet. We have literally, we just started. This is all Scripture here. It's saying you start from the Sabbath, you count 10 days, you end up on a Tuesday, and then you count 5 days from that Tuesday to the Sabbath, right? Yom Kippur, the Jews are celebrating a day too late. Revelations 2 and 9 says, I know the blasphemy of them who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Now here's the problem with our people today, is we're coming into the truth and we're reading this scripture and we're finding out that the Jews who are saying they're Jews are not Jews, right? And we're saying that we're the real Jews. But what's the problem? We're using the same exact doctrine and the same exact dates that the Most High called the synagogue of Satan. Do you realize what you're doing? He called them the synagogue of Satan for a reason, but you're going to the synagogue of Satan for what you believe is supposed to be the Most High's word. Does that make sense? Why would you go to the synagogue of Satan for the truth? You're not going to get it, are you?
Not for our time.
All right? So, let's continue, right? So, I'm going to go over this one more time. You can get 5 days from the 10th day. The Day of Atonement is on Monday sundown to Tuesday sundown. We're going to count from Tuesday 5 days, okay? Because we know that the Feast of Tabernacles falls on the 15th day. That's 5 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 5 days. Let's count from Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Only 4 days. It doesn't match scripture. All right. So, now that we've broken down that, now that we've shown, according to scripture, how the Sabbath is so important. Actually, what verse is that? I want you to drop down to verse, because we just read it in the Torah this morning, where it said, celebrate your Sabbath, your feasts and your Sabbaths. Go down. Right? Okay. Right, so we're going to prove, since in case you don't know, we're going to go into scripture and show you that the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles is a Sabbath, and the last day of the Feast Day of Tabernacles, the Feast of Tabernacles is a Sabbath. Read verse 39.
Verse 39. Also, in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days.
7 days.
On the first day shall be a Sabbath.
Read.
And on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
Wow. There you have it. The first day of the feast is a Sabbath, and the last day of the feast is a Sabbath. There you go. So now we've just done the math to prove that the calendar that the Jews are going by is false, while Scripture is saying something different. They're a day too soon. If you're counting correctly, your memorial blowing of trumpets falls on a Sabbath, right? And your Feast of Tabernacles falls on a Sabbath, right? Okay. So now we're going to get into the actual Hebrew calendar. We're going to break down. We're going to go to the book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 23. Now, the book of Jubilees was written by Moses himself, right? And in the midst of this video, it will be confirmed in itself, okay? So we're going to go to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 22. Read.
Excuse me. Verse 22. For I have written in the book of the first law, in which I have written for thee, that thou shouldest celebrate it in its season. One day in the year, I explain to thee its sacrifices. Oh, I'm sorry. Salaki. Start over.
Okay.
Verse 22. For I have written in the book of the first law, in that which I have written for thee, that thou shouldst celebrate it in its season. One day in the year I explain to thee its sacrifices, and that the children of Israel should remember and should celebrate it throughout their generations. In this month, one day in every year.
Okay. So we see here that Noah is breaking down a year. He's breaking down what calendar our people were following in this time. Now I drew this diagram to show you exactly what it looks like, because here in Babylon, we're using the Gregorian calendar of 365 days. It's thrown off what the Most High had us doing. This is why we have to why everybody's doing all kinds of calculations to see what day holy days fall on and things like that. But we're going to resolve this here today. Read verse 23.
Verse 23. And on the new moon of the first month, and on the new moon of the fourth month,
new moon of the fourth month,
and on the new moon of the seventh month, and on the new moon of the 10th month,
yes,
are the days of remembrance.
Okay.
And the days of the seasons, and the 4 divisions of the year.
The 4 divisions of the year. Okay, so we know that there's 12 months in a year, right? Now, what Moses is saying here is that the year is divided into 4 parts, 4 seasons. We know there's 4 seasons, right? So you divide the year into 4 parts, right? Read. 4 seasons here. Read.
These are written and ordained as a testimony forever.
These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. Read.
Verse 24. And Noah ordained them for himself as feasts.
Noah ordained them for himself as what?
Feasts.
Feasts. Read.
For the generations forever.
For the generations forever. So he's saying at the change of the season, there is a feast. Read.
So that they have become thereby a memorial unto him.
A memorial unto him. Read.
Verse 25. And on the new moon of the first month.
The new moon of the first month.
He was bidden to make for himself an ark.
He was bidden for himself to make an ark. This is the springtime. Read.
And on that day, the earth became dry.
The earth became dry.
And he opened the ark and saw the earth.
He opened the ark and saw the earth. So when we know after the flood, when Noah stepped off the ark, the flowers were blooming. And what season do the flowers bloom?
Spring.
In the springtime, right? And he says on the first day of the first month. That means that the first season here is spring, not winter. Notice how in the Roman calendar they begin your year in winter. Winter is the death of a year. Why would you celebrate the beginning of a new year with death? Winter is when everything dies, when everything closes up. While spring represents the rebirth. Everything's coming to bloom, coming to life. The life of a new year. Right? And we know that, and we also know that spring begins in March. Right? Is everybody following me? We know that the springtime begins in March. So if you look at the Roman calendar, if you put the Hebrew calendar in terms of of the Roman calendar that we operate on today, that would be March 10th, right? So that means, and check this out, March 10th is a Sabbath. Then we established earlier that the first day of the year was a Sabbath. We established that earlier, right? Is everybody hearing me? We established that it's a Sabbath. So March 10th is a Sabbath, right? It's a Sabbath. Now the reason why it counts perfectly according to Leviticus 23 is because you can get 14 days from that Sabbath and it will fall on a Sabbath for Passover. It falls at the perfect time in time for Passover, right? You can't do that if you go before or if you go after. It has to fall on a Sabbath, right? And I'm going to go into that a little bit later as far as deeper detail. Keep reading.
Verse 26.
Mm-hmm.
And on the new moon of the 4th month.
Wait, I have to go into that. Now it says the new moon of the 1st month. The new moon of the 1st month, the new moon of the 4th month, the new moon of the 7th month, and the new moon of the 10th month. Right? What is this saying? Now, we know that we are not to judge our times according to the moon. We're going to go over this later. We're not supposed to judge our times according to the moon. But he tells us to observe the new moon of the 1st month. Now, why does he give a specific date of that new moon? Because the new moon comes in at different times every year. If you look at this year's calendar in September 8th, the new moon, the new month of the 7th month, the beginning of the 7th month according to Scripture, you will see that the 8th was a decreasing moon. You see only a sliver of the moon on the left side, right? Well, if you look at last year in 2017, it was almost a full moon. So we see that the moon does not come in the same way at the same time every year. This is why he doesn't give a specific day as to the new moon. He says the new moon in the 1st month, whatever time that may be. That is the day that we celebrate the feast on. Why? Because we are bringing in the new seasons. I'm going to prove it. Keep reading.
Verse 26.
Mm-hmm.
And on the new moon of the 4th month.
The new moon of the 4th month. Notice how he's separating the new moons. He says in the new moon of the 1st month, the new moon of the 4th month, the new moon of the 7th month, and the new moon of the 10th month. Keep reading.
The months of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed.
We're closed. This is summertime. We're seeing the 2nd season. Keep reading.
And on the new moon of the 7th month,
Mm-hmm.
all the mouths of the abyss of the earth were open.
We're open. This is fall. Read.
And the waters began to descend into them.
The waters began to descend into them. Keep reading.
Verse 27.
Mm-hmm.
And on the new moon of the 10th month,
New moon of the 10th month. We're seeing a different season here. Read.
the tops of the mountains were seen.
The tops of the mountains were seen. This is the winter time.
And Noah was glad.
And Noah was glad. At this time period, he saw that the rain had stopped and had began to decrease. This is the winter time. So we've seen so far that that he has divided the year into 4 parts, 4 seasons. Are you following me? Are you sure I don't hear nobody? Okay, keep reading.
Verse 29.
Mm-hmm.
And they placed them on the heavenly tablets.
Where are these written?
On the heavenly tablets.
On the heavenly tablets. This means that this is not something that we're coming up with on ourselves. This is what the Most High is celebrating in the heavens. That they're placed on the heavenly tablets. Read.
Each had 13 weeks.
Each had 13 weeks. So it's saying that for one season, out of these 4 seasons, for one season there are 13 weeks within it. Right? And if you do the math, if you multiply 13 by 4, what do you get? 52 weeks, right? Multiply the 7 by 13, what do you get? You get 91. Confirm it? You get 91. So that means there are 13 Sabbaths within one season, and there are 91 days within one season. Right? So let's confirm these numbers really quickly, okay? So we have 4 seasons. You have 4 seasons. If you multiply 13 by 4, what do you get?
42. No,
52.
You get 52, right? And if you multiply 91 by 4 seasons, what do you get?
364.
And if you divide 364 by 52, what do you get? 7. Sabbath days are important, people. Read, and I'm going to go into it in a minute.
Verse 29. And they placed them on the heavenly tablet.
They placed them on the heavenly tablets. Read.
Each had 13 weeks.
Each had 13 weeks.
From one to another passed their memorial.
From one to another passed their memorial. Read.
From one to the second.
From the first to the second.
From the second to the third.
From the second to the third.
And from the third to the fourth.
And from the third to the fourth.
Verse 30.
Read.
And all the days of the commandment were to be 50 weeks of days, and these will make an entire year complete.
Read that again.
And all the days of the commandment will be 2 and 50 weeks of days.
Then we just do that math. If you multiply 13 by 4 weeks, what do you get?
52.
Even. You have 52 weeks within a full year. Right? Okay. So let's break down what's inside of the season, because you guys are probably looking at me and saying,
Finish the verse out.
finish the verse out, read.
And all the days of the commandment will be 2 and 50 weeks of days.
Read.
And these will make the entire year complete.
They will make the entire year complete. Read.
Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablet.
This is the calendar that the Most High is following. It's already written. It's already written. Right? So, you guys are probably looking at me like, 91 days doesn't divide equally into 3. It doesn't.
Salaki. Verse 31. Let me get 31.
Go ahead, get 31.
Verse 31. And there is no neglecting this commandment.
No neglecting this commandment
For a single year.
for a single year
Or from year to year.
or from year to year. He's saying this is what you should be following from year to year, not to neglect it for even 1 year.
Verse 32. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning.
It says, observe the years according to this reckoning. Read.
364 days.
Whoa, then we just do that math. 364 days within a complete year.
And these will constitute a complete year.
And these will constitute a complete year.
And they will not disturb its time.
They will not disturb its time, read.
From its days.
From its days.
And from its feasts.
From its what?
Its feasts.
Oh, keep it going, keep going.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony.
And they will not leave out
And they will not leave out, read.
any day,
Okay?
nor disturb any feast.
Nor disturb any feast. Now, let's go back to the beginning, because there's a reason why I established the Sabbath day first. I showed you all that the Sabbath day that every feast day, besides the Day of Atonement, which is not a feast day, falls on a Sabbath, correct? I showed you that, right? Now, here's the problem. If from year to year we're supposed to celebrate our feast days on the Sabbath day, that means the weeks have to divide equally into the year. If the weeks do not divide equally into the year, you will be celebrating your holy day on a different day every year. Are you following me? We have a 365-day calendar in America, don't we? Now, we know that if you divide 365 by 7, you're going to come out with 52.12, right? You're not going to come out with the even 52 weeks. So that means that every year, whatever you have is going to fall on a different day. So that means you may have been born on a Monday, but next year your birthday will fall on a Wednesday. That's out of order of Scripture. That means that the days have to divide that the weeks have to divide equally into the days in order for you to be able to celebrate your holy days on the Sabbaths as they are ordained.
On the appointed time.
On the appointed time. So, we're seeing that this calendar is already working. Divide 364 by 52, and what do you get?
7.
You get 7. How many days? There are 7 days in a week, right? Divide 52 by 4.
13.5. Or no.
Divide 52 by 4.
13.
You get 13. Divide 364 by 4.
91.
You get 91. Would you look at that? Everything divides evenly into this calendar. That's why it says that it won't disturb what? Read.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimonies, and they will not leave out any day, nor disturb any feast.
Nor disturb any feast. This is how the calendar should look. If you have an even amount of days to an even amount of days in a week, or to an even amount of weeks within a year, everything will fall on the same day as it should. Right? Can you go to Enoch chapter 72? Enoch chapter 72, verse 11. Right? Because there's an empty space. See, Jubilees, they give you the year, but as you can see on this calendar, I have days written in, the number of days within the month. Right? Because as I was saying, you can't divide 91 evenly by 3, can you? Let's see why there's 31 days within this last month. We're going to see why, okay? Chapter 72, verse 11. Read.
Verse 11. Enoch, chapter 72, verse 11.
Read.
When the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30 mornings in succession.
He comes in through the portal how many mornings?
30.
30 mornings. Read.
And sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of heaven.
And sets accurately in the fourth portal. Okay, so let's look at these portals. This is what's important. Because depending on which portal the sun enters and exits through, determines as to how many days are in a month. So we're seeing here that he's rising and setting in the fourth portal. Read.
Verse 12. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 13th morning.
Now, ever wonder why in March the time changes? The days get longer and the nights get shorter? Enoch's the only one who explains that. Read.
Verse 13. On that day, the day is longer than the night by a ninth part.
By a ninth part, read.
And the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts.
Read.
14. And the sun rises from that fourth portal.
Rises from the fourth portal, read.
And sets in the fourth.
And sets in the fourth once again, read.
And returns to the fifth portal of the east 30 mornings.
30 mornings.
And rises from it and sets in the fifth portal.
And sets in the fifth portal. Right? So here we're seeing 30 in the first month and 30 in the second month. Right? That's 60 days. Are we on track so far? Keep reading.
15. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter, and it amounts to 7 parts.
Okay.
16. And it returns to the east and enters the sixth portal, and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign.
Whoa, wait a minute. It says 1 and 30 mornings. This is saying 31 in the third month of that season. Add 30 plus 30 plus 31, and what do you come out with? 91. Perfect. Now, you're probably wondering, why is there an extra day here? Notice a reoccurring theme. 30, 30, 31 season change. 30, 30, 31 season change. 30, 30, 31 season change. Once again, 30, 30, 31 season change. That extra day is there for the season change. Because he's entering through a different portal when we go into a new season. Notice how it says he enters in through the fourth portal and exits through the fourth portal here, right? And it says he enters through the fourth portal and exits through the fourth portal and comes back in through the fifth portal. And then when it comes in through the fifth portal here, it exits through the fifth portal, right? It's for the extra day is for the change in season. So you have to have 30 days for each month, plus the 1 day for the season change, right? And this is in the time in this next month here, and in this fourth month here, we'll be celebrating the change of a new season, that new moon of the fourth month. Are you following me? Now, raise your hand if the math is wrong. Has anything come out to a decimal? No. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go back to Jubilees, the book of Jubilees. Read verse 32, verse 31.
Verse 31. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year from year to year.
Keep, go read.
32. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning.
According to this reckoning,
364 days.
364 days.
And these will constitute a complete year.
And these will constitute a complete year. Okay, so we're going to test the calendar now. Okay? We're in the Feast of Tabernacles, right?
Fine.
All right? So, let's test the calendar. If the new year begins at March 10th, right? The new year begins at March 10th. If we start off at that time period, you should be able to count 182 days. That means 2 seasons, because we're going to the 7th month here, right? We're going to the memorial blowing of trumpets in the 7th month. So you should be able to count 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, right? You should be able to count 182 days to September, to the memorial blowing of trumpets, which is a Sabbath, right? If you count 182 days from March 10th, you will fall on September 8th, a Sabbath. We're good so far. We've fallen on the Sabbath for the memorial blowing of trumpets. 1 for the Hebrew calendar, right? Then according to Leviticus 23, you count 10 days from that Sabbath. And you will fall on the Day of Atonement, which is on a Tuesday, right? If you count 10 days from September 8th, you'll fall on September 18th, a Tuesday. 2 for the Bible. Now one more time, it says you should be able to count 5 days to the 15th day of the 7th month, and you'll fall on the Feast of Tabernacles, which begins on a Sabbath, right? Count 5 days from Tuesday, and you will fall when? On September the 23rd, a Sabbath day. Would you looky there? The Bible calculated it perfectly. So we see again that the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles is on a Sabbath, right? We read this. So so the calendar works perfectly already. If you count from March 10th, 182 days to the 7th month, that's why I marked this first month, 7th month, right? If you count the 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31 out here to the first day of the 7th month. Now keep in mind, let's look in the Roman calendar real quick. Why is September the 9th month, but the prefix sept means 7? Is that odd to you? Isn't that odd? Because September is supposed to be the 9th month, but yet they have it named after the 7th month. That's not an accident. And the only way you can count 7 months is to start from spring. You have to start from March. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 7 months. So you're going to fall in September. Now let's do the math. Now that we've counted 182 days from the Sabbath, you fall on yet another Sabbath, the memorial blowing of trumpets. You count 10 days from the first day, which is September 8th, and you get to September 18th, a Tuesday. And if you count 5 days to the 15th day of the 7th month, according to Leviticus 23, you fall on September 23rd, a Sabbath. So, Day of Atonement. Oh, it was on the 17th this year. Okay. Salakia. So from the Tuesday was 17th, right? Okay, so Salakia, that was my miscalculation. I meant to say the 17th. That's my miscalculation. I'll say it right here on camera. When I set this up, I thought it was the 18th. I was going by what the day that we got off from school, and I put the 18th. Salakia, that is my fault. But if you count those days from, it still applies. Let's start over then. You go from the 8th and you count to the Tuesday, and then you count from that Tuesday and you count to the Sabbath. Still the same number of days and matches Scripture. I apologize, that was my miscalculation, right? Still going from the 9th day even to, if you go from the 9th day even to the 10th day even, you still fall in line with the same calendar. My fault, I put that in my notes, had that a little bit messed up. Salakia. All right. Now, we know that the Jews judge the year according to the moon, right? We have Israelites out here saying, well, from new moon to new moon is a month. Now, here's the problem. Scripture says that there are 364 days within a full calendar year, right? 364 days? A moon has a cycle of 29 and a half days. If you multiply 29 and a half, start getting it out on your calculator. If you multiply 29 and a half by 12 months, what do you get? 354. 10 days too soon. Who said that? Let's go to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32 through 38. We're going to close this out.
Verse 32.
Mm-hmm.
And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
364 days.
Not 354, 364, read.
And these will constitute a complete year.
A complete year, read.
And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts.
And from its feast, read.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony. That means the same day every year, read.
And they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast.
Nor disturb any feast, read.
33. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment.
Now, doesn't this sound a lot like Deuteronomy 28, where it says, if thou shalt not hearken unto the words of the Most High? Let's see what happens if we do not observe the year according to this reckoning. Read.
Then they will disturb all their seasons. Excuse me, Salaki. Then they will disturb all their seasons.
All their seasons.
And the years.
And the years.
Will be dislodged.
Okay.
From this order.
Mm-hmm.
And they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances.
And we will neglect our ordinances.
Verse 34. And all the children of Israel will forget, and will not find the path of the years.
It said we will what?
Neglect and forget. Forget.
Mm-hmm.
And will not find the path of the years.
And will not find the path of the years, read.
And we will forget the new moons.
The new moons.
And seasons.
And seasons.
And Sabbaths.
And Sabbaths.
And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years.
And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. Now you see why the Sabbath is so important? Do you understand why the Sabbath is so important? When Moses said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, he meant it. Because if we forget the Sabbath, we forget everything. Notice when we forgot the Sabbath, we lost our calendar. Notice when we forgot the Sabbath, we went into captivity. That's because the Sabbath orders everything. The Sabbath divides equally into the number of days. The Sabbath divides equally into the number of weeks. And it divides evenly into the seasons. This is why the Sabbath is so important. Raise your hand if you did not say at the beginning of this lesson how important the Sabbath was to our Israelites. Raise your hands if you did not say it was important. No one. Read.
35. For I know, and from henceforth I will declare it unto thee. And it is not of my own devising.
It's not what?
Of my own devising.
He said that, Moses says that this is not of his own devising. He didn't write this himself. Who wrote it? Read.
For the book lies written before me.
It's already written. This book has already been written. Moses hadn't written it. He's just looking at it. Read.
For the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets.
And on the heavenly tablets. This is how the heavens are ordering their calendar, and this is how it's working in the heavens. He said that it's already written. It's already written live before him. He didn't write this. This is not of his own devising. This is what Moses is saying. Right? Read.
And on the heavenly tablets, the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles.
Lest we forget what?
Forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles.
We start celebrating Christmas, Easter, New Year's at the wrong time, St. Patrick's Day. Right? Keep reading.
After the error and after their ignorance.
After error and after our ignorance. Read.
For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon.
It said they would assuredly what?
Make observations of the moon.
It said they would make observations of the moon. Read.
How? It disturbs the seasons.
It what?
It disturbs the seasons.
Now, didn't he just say that if you did it according to this calendar, it would not disturb the seasons? Read.
How it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon.
Whoa, read that one more time.
It disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon.
Now, then we do the calculations. We know, we all know. We just did the calculations. A moon in its phases is 29 and a half days. Get out your calculator. Do it again. 29 and a half days times 12 months. What do you get?
354.
If you subtract 364 minus 354, what do you get?
10.
Exactly 10 days too soon. We are not to observe the moon because it would throw us off of our calendar. Read.
36. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they disturb the order and make an abominable day.
Whoa, wait, read that one more time. What's that word?
Abominable day.
Abominable day, read.
The day of testimony.
The day of testimony, read.
And an unclean day, a feast day.
And an unclean day, a feast day. People are celebrating Yom Kippur, right? Following Yom Kippur after the Jewish, after the people over there in Israel, after Scripture already says they're the synagogue of Satan. Read.
And an unclean day, a feast day. And they will confound all the days.
They will confound all the days, read.
The holy with the unclean.
The holy with the unclean.
And the unclean day with the holy.
And the unclean day with the holy, read.
For they will go wrong.
For they will go wrong, read.
As to the months, the Sabbaths, feasts, and jubilees.
And jubilees. It said we'll go wrong as to all these things concerning times. The months. You have 28-day months. How do you do that? How do you get 28 days out of a month? Scripture says you have 30, 30, 31. Right? It says we'll go wrong as to the month. And it says we'll go wrong as to the Sabbath. Knowing that the Feast of Tabernacles is supposed to start on Sabbath, people are celebrating it other days. Knowing that the memorial blowing of trumpets is supposed to fall on a Saturday and not a Sunday, and still celebrating it on a Sunday. Read.
Verse 37. For this reason, I command and testify to thee that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death,
Read.
thy children will disturb them.
What? Didn't we do that? Isn't this why we're not following the correct calendar now? It says that after thy death, your children will disturb them. This sounds a lot like Deuteronomy 28. If thou dost not hearken unto the words of the Most High, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. After our father's death, we disturb the calendar. This is why we don't know this information. This is why we decided to take Jubilees and Enoch out of Scripture. This is why we don't have the knowledge. What the Scripture says, it says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Read.
So that they will not make the year 364 days only.
It says we would not make the year 364 days only. You got the solar calendar, which gives you 365 days. Isn't that more than 364? Let's go back over it one more time. The moon cycle, the moon cycle is 29 and a half days. You multiply that by 12, what do you get? 354, right? And then you have the opposite, the solar calendar, which comes out to 365, which is the Gregorian calendar. So it says that we will not make the year 364 days only. We would observe the Gregorian calendar, which has 1 day more, right? And we would observe the lunar calendar, which is 10 days less, right? And we have Israelites doing this. We spent a full 2 weeks going over every single person's idea on the calendar. And you have people observing 354 days, people observing lunar solar calendars, leap years, and all this kind of thing. But that's not what Scripture says. It says that after our father's death, we would disturb them and not make them 364 days only. How many days is on the calendar that we're observing here in Babylon? 365. The most. Yes, yeah. So we're seeing here that Moses, he told us what would happen if we went away from this calendar that he gave us. And I'm pretty sure this is all right. Read.
Okay. Let's see where to start. Okay. For after thy death, thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only.
Mm-hmm.
And for this reason they will go wrong, as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood and all kinds of flesh.
And all kinds of flesh. You're observing every new moon except for the ones that Noah told you to observe. Noah did not tell you that from new moon to new moon is a month. Noah never told you that. Noah said that we're supposed to celebrate the new moon in the first month, the fourth month, the seventh month, and the 10th month. He didn't say that every single month that we're supposed to be observing a new moon. And nor did he tell you that from new moon to new moon is a month. He told you that there's 13 weeks in between the season. And from 13 and from first to second is 13 weeks. There's 30 days within the first 2 months and 31 days within the last month of the season. That's 91 days. He didn't tell you, oh, okay, so we're supposed to observe from new moon to new moon is going to be a month, and from new moon to new moon is going to be another month. And we're going to tell you why. We're going to show you why he didn't tell us to observe the months from new moon to new moon. Go to Enoch chapter 74, verse 4 through 5.
Enoch 74, verse 4. In the single seventh parts, she accomplishes all her light in the east.
In the east.
And in single seventh parts, accomplishes all her darkness in the west. Verse 5. And in certain months.
Certain months. It doesn't say in specific months. It says in certain months. What?
In certain months, she alters her settings.
She alters her settings. Read.
And in certain months, she pursues her own particular course.
She pursues her own particular course. That means she does what she wants to in certain months. This is why you can look at September in 2018 and see that that September 8th is almost completely dark. But you can look at 2017 in September and you see that it's almost a full moon. Because the moon does what she wants to. What the moon does consistently, according to scripture, and she comes in 10 days too soon. She accomplishes her 354 days. This is why we're not supposed to observe the moon. Right? We see that he refers to the moon as a she, right? Now let's look at our women. We love our women. We love our women to death.
You better leave that one alone.
But hey, but it's true.
Tread softly, sir.
I'm treading softly. So we know that at a certain time of the month, women get in their moods. They have certain types of mood swings, right? And they tend to be here one minute and here the next minute, right? Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. This is the same thing this is the same track that the moon follows. She may be here one year, but she'll be here the next year. It says she pursues her own particular course. Notice how he couldn't explain this course. It's because she has a different course. She does her own thing. It does different every year. The only thing the moon does consistently every year is come in 10 days too soon. This is why we're not supposed to follow the moon. All right, so we're going to go back to Jubilees chapter 6 one more time. Read Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32.
Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning.
According to this reckoning,
364 days.
364 days. So let's go back over the calendar one more time. Make sure that all the math works before we close this out. 364 days within a year. Divide 364 by 7, you get 52. If you multiply 52 by 7, you get 364. They work within themselves perfectly, right? Scripture also says that you have 13 months. You have 13 months. You have 13 weeks, Salakia, between each season. Multiply 13 by 4. And what do you get? You get 52. It says that there are 91, and if there are 13 weeks, if you multiply 13 by 7, you get 91. If you multiply 91 by 4, you get 364, right? And if you divide 364 by 91, you get 7. The calendar works within itself perfectly. It doesn't disturb the times of the seasons. That means that you won't be celebrating your Sabbath on Saturday this year like you're supposed to, and then next year celebrating it on a Monday. That's not how the Most High works. We established in Leviticus that the feast days fall on Sabbaths. And in order for them to fall on Sabbaths, as according to Leviticus 23, is for you to be able to divide the weeks evenly into the number of days. And I'm pretty sure we did that in this lesson about 8 or 9 times. Okay? And that is the conclusion of the breakdown of the holy days and the Hebrew calendar.
Thank you, sir. Over the past couple of weeks, we have been doing the research on all of this. We give a pause and let her make the adjustment on the camera. One more. Swing the lamp around too. Thank you. Yeah, so we've compiled quite a bit of research, just going back, double checking and rechecking and checking again all the way up until this morning. Up until an hour before we started, just, going through the research. We have everything together, all the research. I'm going to have it uploaded to the website. It'll be on the library page for anybody that wants to go back and confirm this stuff. Yes.
And please, study to show thyself approved. I don't want you going and looking at this video and then looking at it and be like, okay, that's true. And then when somebody asks you to explain it, you have to give them the video in order to explain it. No, you should be able to look at this video, take the information that is within this video, study it for yourself, and then learn it, do what you can to learn it, and then so that you'll know it for yourself. Don't take our word for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so also along with the research, I have all the sources listed on there, the links for everything on there. There are various sources on there where we, confirm the information. So most definitely, like Tazadak said, you most definitely don't want to take people's word for things. You want to do the research yourself. That's all of us have that responsibility. All of us have that duty. When we came into the truth, we went through several different teachers. We started out here, went through like 3 or 4 other people. We didn't deal with certain people too long, and it wasn't because of any one particular thing, right? It's just you need a couple things when you're coming into this truth. Of course, you need to have an inner knowing. You need to be led by the Spirit, right? And so you have to be led by the Spirit. Number 1, and number 2, you have to be willing to take the information and go back and do the work. When we watch videos and stuff, that's their work. They've done that research. They brought it forth, which is great. It's a benefit to all of us, but we have to go back and study it out for ourselves. That's the only way we're going to know. I remember when we got the truth, we got it through a gentleman named, what's his name?
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim, yes.
We started off with Yerushalayim.
Right.
Then we went to Watchmen.
Yeah.
Then we were with Kazawan for like a month. Went through all his videos.
Yeah.
We went through Kazawan, and then who else? We went to.
I was IUIC watching and learning from them, but I didn't present any of that stuff to you all. But
and then we moved forward, and we found Gathering of Christ Church.
Right. And so
we've been there, done that. We basically been through all of it.
Yeah. Now my son's father-in-law, he was over last week, and he said, "Listen, this word is so deep, you're not gonna get it all. It's a journey. That's what he described it as. It's a journey, right? But what is a journey? You can't take a journey unless you're moving. You got to be moving, And if you're moving, movement is life. So when you stop moving, that means you dead, right? So we don't get stagnant. We have to keep moving. We have to keep learning, keep growing, keep advancing, right? Because not just our lives depend on it, but those amongst us as well. we have a responsibility to do that due diligence. Con?
Come on.
All right, it's a blessing. This young man right here is making me more and more proud. Good work.
Thank you. The water.
All right, everyone. Y'all ready to eat? All right. Let's go ahead and stand and be dismissed.
All right. We're going to close out with the Hebrew Credo. Make sure you're nice and loud. This is a feast day, a day where the Most High led us out of Egypt, and He had us dwell in booths, right?
Yes.
So we're going to be loud for the Most High today, right? We're going to be loud for the Most High today, right? Y'all ready? All right. Shema.
Shema.
Yesharallah.
Yesharallah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Akkad.
Akkad.
Shema.
Shema.
Yesharallah.
Yesharallah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Akkad.
Akkad.
Shema.
Shema.
Yesharallah.
Yesharallah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya Noah.
Ahaya.
Ahaya.
Akkad.
Akkad.
Hear Israel.
Hear Israel.
The Lord our God is one.
Lord our God is one.
Kwam Yesharallah.
Kwam Yesharallah.
Kwam Yesharallah.
Kwam Yesharallah.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is the conclusion of the lesson.